I'm mostly like a quiet person. I go up to Forest Park and listen to the forest. It's very quiet. And I make a lot of offerings up there. Corn pollen. Usually sprinkle some on the water or land. And just have a conversation with nature. Toy not that, that's what we say. Water is life. Water gives us life. And the trees, they breathe out, we breathe in, And they're so very important that we have clean water to live, because water is life. Because we gotta have clean water. So I like going up there and making offerings up there, sending out good energy to the world.
I think the psychology behind it is like they're comfortable. They don't feel the need to be filling the space. They feel pretty solid in just like being and witnessing. And I think that that's really cool. I wish that I felt that way more.
I get to observe people more. I feel like I'm better at like reading body language and like catching the vibe of other people.
The older I get, the less I feel the need to just be making noise all the time.
So I feel like you gain a lot more from the world with like a little quietness, but I think there's also something to be said for like being loud and the connectivity that can bring to
making like media art and documentary work. I'm observing people a lot, and so to observe well, like you do need to quiet yourself so that you can like hear more and see more.
I like to stay back and kind of observe, and I feel being a quiet person kind of just allows you to observe and like pick up on things that are just going on in your environment.
The good is that like you're just doing your thing, you're vibing, you're just on your own, you're kind of keeping to yourself. Like the cons is like you could potentially, at some point have a lot that you want to say and that you just want to be loud all the time, and then you just get so comfortable being quiet that you don't know how to like use your voice or be loud or things like that.
Psychology in general is multifaceted, and there's so many dimensions and dynamics that have to do with traumas, family upbringing, socioeconomic status, like chronic stressors you may have experienced or not experienced throughout your childhood, moving around, having a source of stability. And so the psychology, oftentimes of quiet people that I work with, people will say, I get so in my head. So it's a very common thing for people to be silent because they are like in their head. So a lot of times what that relates to is that there's a lot of social perception that they're going to be judged when they speak, or what they say will be laughed at or made to feel like dumb about themselves, some negative belief that they have about themselves. So often quiet people really carry that fear of judgment around, and so that's why they're more quiet.
So I think shyness and anxiety kind of go hand in hand, because when you're shy, you're having like feelings about like concerns about judgment, or maybe just feeling like uncomfortable in a situation. And that could be happening when someone's quiet. Like usually when we're shy, we stay quiet because we're worried about that judgment. But I think also there are people who are quiet and perfectly content being quiet. And so they're not feeling uncomfortable, they're not feeling nervous, they're just like chilling, just being.
Yeah.
And I think the two aren't mutually exclusive, but oftentimes when somebody's introverted, they are more quiet because introversion is more of being able to kind of recharge when you're on your own. And that doesn't necessarily have to be quiet, but a lot of times it is.
A lot of it has to do with if your family kind of gave you space to talk, or if they encouraged you to talk.
I think when people are quiet, they're able to attend to things maybe a little bit better, like they're processing more, and so they can be more of like critical thinkers. They tend to be like a little less impulsive in the conversation, and so when they do speak, sometimes like their words hold more weight. So I think those could be some advantages. But I think disadvantages are sometimes like quiet people might come across as like being uncomfortable when really they're not, or they might come across as being like aloof or not very friendly or cold, which I don't necessarily think is true.
Like professionally, I think if you're too quiet, sometimes you could miss out on opportunities, for not like maybe holding yourself back, or like staying in like the safe zone. Also, sometimes you need to be, I feel like I need to be quiet to listen and to observe and to learn before I could give my opinion.
A lot of it came into establishing my identity and who I was. In my own self-study of it, started doing yoga and healing through sound healing and focusing on my throat chakra and learning about the chakras. So the chakras are considered these energetic centers of our bodies through Ayurvedic principles. And above your heart chakra is your throat chakra. And so to heal that, you do vagal toning, or you'll practice oming, or you'll do postures where you're doing like a chin stand or something that's applying pressure and safety, kind of comfort onto that vagal nerve.
Trying to catch yourself if you're like afraid and you're like overthinking something. Role play it in your head first. So how's it gonna come out? And then, just sometimes you just gotta go for it.
I feel like there should be more grace for the spectrum of like how we communicate, because I think a lot of times we think it should be this way, but really like communication can be through a lot of different modalities and means. Like we can speak through art, we can speak through music, we can speak conversely, but we can also speak with our body. And like, I think being more open to that spectrum of communication is also more inclusive, because there are people who don't feel comfortable speaking or have like speech impediments or stutters or autism spectrum disorder, where like talking in the ways that we think we should talk is not very like inclusive for them. And so I think expanding our idea of what communication is would be really helpful as a community and country and just people.
I'm quiet because like I have a lot of social anxiety, so it's harder for me to like step up and make that kind of noise to like make something or put myself out there creatively.
I think that maybe when I was in my early 20s or in my teens, I felt that I needed to really change, myself to be more fierce seeming or something, and now I feel more like grounded.
Especially like, being a musician, I kind of have started to, I guess just embrace like the absence of noise, and kind of makes me appreciate the noise that is happening,
Makes me feel like maybe I should notice quiet people more. Like, I think as a loud person, I like when other people are really loud. It makes it feel like it's easier to approach somebody when they're already kind of like outgoing. But that being said, I think, again, quiet people have a lot to say, because there's a lot to notice when it's silent and still.
Sometimes it's very hard because capitalism, like exploitation, and all these words that are around today that keep us from being human beings. Got to be a human being. Go up to the mountains and be with yourself, because that's good for you to be silent. Because the world drives us. The world goes too fast, and it makes us anxious, and anxieties and stress, and it affects our heart and it affects our body. So it's nice to go up there and just sit, meditate for a little bit. Think about your family and think about your kids, and send good energy out, to the people. Then water is life. Toya Nate, water is life. We need clean soil. We need clean land, and that will affect our bodies and it'll affect the future generation. There's a lot of mental illness going on right now. People don't really know what to do about it, and it all comes from the water and the food that we eat. So we got to just continue to educate people, on trying to keep this land healthy for future generation, because we're a reflection of Mother Earth. That's what the elders say. They say we're if Mother Earth is sick, and then we're sick. So that's what's going on right now too. That's what I fight for, you know, like, and I get loud sometimes, and I'll go down to the street and demonstrate, get loud, you know. So there's a balance to it, you know, but most of the time I'm pretty chill, you know. I don't get loud.